of regulations. The minuscule organized sector is holding out against the vast unorganized sector. The state resources have been employed primarily with the organized sector, which constitutes 6-7% depending on the kind of formula that you use, whereas the 93% the state has to allocate resources. I'll quickly go to the reforms. I'll set the context. In the pre-liberalization era, there was social dialogue and an implicit social contract. We had the tripartite mechanism in full force. In the post-liberalization, it has become G to B, government to business. And what is important is that the percentage of regular or wage salaried employees who do not have written job contracts, formal job contracts, has increased to over the period of over the NSS survey and the PLFS survey, from 58% to 73% for male, and nearly 60% to 67% for female, and 59 to 71% for the overall people who do not have even formal written contracts. So this is the precarious situation that we are talking about. Of course, Professor Kannan is here. We have argued from jobless, we have moved to job loss growth in the as made out by the trends between 2011 and 2004 onwards till the PLFS survey. And the second one we have, of course, we all know this is official statistics on the extent of contracticization, which is 36%. Anyone who is familiar with the empirical realities will know that the contract labor percentage would be more than half. Dr. Rahul Saptal and I have done some amount of work. Now we have to know the political economy. On the one hand, we are battling with ease of doing business ranking, which the government of India or all the governments are vying with one another, and we are celebrating the better ranking. The lower the ranking, the higher the better the performance. 63. If you see it on the right hand side, the trade union movement has not used these ITUC rankings. 5 means the labor rights are really break down. 1 to 6 is a number assigned by International Trade Union Confederation, which looks at 132 indices of labor violations, and India has been getting a constant score of 5 for over the last 5 cycles of the ITUC. 5 means labor rights are really, there's a breakdown. 6 is worst possible countries. We are just bordering on the between 5 and 6. There is every possibility that we may degenerate to 6. So we have on the one hand the ease of doing business, on the other hand we have the labor rights violation. The entire the content and the intent is the political economy of labor regulation, ease of doing business versus the labor rights. And if you see the entire codes have to be seen in the distributional issues that we say. On the one, the government of India is talking about the production, make in India, but the social dialogue and social justice would talk about the distributional issues. I have just taken the ASI data, Annual Survey of Industries data, and I have plotted the share of wages in the gross value added from 1981-82 to the recent period, which is the blue line, and the red line is the share of profits in the gross value added. You see, they move contra. Though in recent years, the share of profit has decreased a little bit, and the share of wages has increased a little high. So, what should be the? Do we require reforms which would weaken the labor rights altogether? And I have compared here the trends in the frequency of strikes. In the morning there was a discussion, and the share of lockouts. On the left hand side you see the frequency of strikes has plummeted. On the right hand side you see the share of lockouts has risen over the reform period. So in order to answer Dr. Praveen Sinha's intent and content, I thought I would give this background. Of course, the remaining ones are IR code, which we will see later as time permits. So we are talking about the entire exercise of codification of labor laws, which according to me are a proxy method for introducing flexible labor practices, which need to be seen in a political economic context of weakening of labor rights on the one hand, including distributional adversities as given by the share of wages in the value added, and also even if you take the share of wages in the national income, it is not favorable. So on the other hand, the government is talking about ease of doing business, and there have been number of closures, there have been number of layoffs and retrenchments, and the government is concentrating on the ease of doing business. So the ease of doing business and the cost of doing business on the one hand, and the increasing dilution of the labor market practices, exclusionary practices, labor market discrimination. Professor Kannan, who is here, will be talking to you tomorrow, has from his presidential address through these recent papers, have very powerfully argued the kind of exclusions in the labor market, and also he and Ravindran have done analysis of the NSSO and even the ASI data and other data to show that the kind of growth that we are having is not exactly the kind of growth that we should be having. In other words, it is socially exclusionary and also putting labor on the back foot in a disadvantageous situation. So this is the context I wish to set forth to follow up with the discussions on the labor codes. Thank you very much. In the context.
Okay, let me invite now Chandan Kumar from the Vocal Charter.
I'm not sure if this is the right session, right time. It's a post-lunch session, so are we alive? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So, I don't think so that I really want to bring the academic perspective, and that's why I told Rahul. So first of all, thanks to Praveen for he's a co-traveler for all our analysis of the Working People's Charter, analyzing and following the labor codes discussion inch by inch. Rahul, Shahnaz, a lot of colleagues I can see in this hall, with whom I have been working the last 5 years now, since the code has been introduced by the central government. But I don't think so that there is any point to talking about the very kind of academic and theoretical discussion, because my co-panelist, Professor Shyam Sundar, is very, very good in that. I'm not good at that. So I would like to bring some other perspective before you, and wanted to give you some kind of food for thoughts where we can have some kind of discussion. And I will also request to chair that if we can have some kind of conversation, because then it would be good to basically also understand the bigger perspective. So thank you, Rahul, and thank you TISS Center for Globalization and the Labor for inviting me. Generally I don't come for such conference. I'm so sorry, please forgive me about that. If I may not be appropriate with this whole academic kind of connotation, Rahul. Okay, so when we started discussing about the labor laws, and actually we designed, we analyzed a lot of basically the whole government understanding, and as rightly pointed out by the Professor Shyam Sundar, that how government is trying to do kind of make a things where the labor rights, labor questions will be more difficult in the coming days. And we actually took the same discussion, and we went to so many people, so many organizations, particularly in the informal sector. And then we started giving a presentation, and everybody was like, "Ye aap log kya bata rahe, samajh mein nahi aa raha." And I tell you why. This entire labor discourse has been historically and formally meant for the formal sector workers. And it is very true, because historically the working class fought for it. And working class got these laws because they actually demanded for it. But this whole sort of transformations after the 70s and 80s, India shifting from the agrarian economy to the industrial economy to the manufacturing economy and so on. So you already talked about that, Professor Shyam Sundar, that how the transformation phase has happened, and we actually didn't care about that how this entire labor market was completely become informal, and there's a whole mess situation. So all the laws, what I would call it, all the archaic laws, meant for that time, 60s, 70s and 80s, for that kind of workers, it really does not applicable. So if I go and talk about that, hey, provident fund, hey, ESIC, and then the Bricklin workers or the daily wage workers or the people who are standing on the Naka, like, what are you talking about? I've never heard about all this thing. So this is the whole debate, and this debate is very important at this situation. When you talk about anybody that are you the workers or not, मतलब आप सही में worker है नहीं है, इसकी पहचान. Who are you? Are you workers or not? You go any part of this country and you will find the hundreds of millions of people, migrants, who are hanging around the street. And I always like the quote, my favorite quote by my favorite academia, Professor Jan Bremen, wage hunters and gatherers. You go anywhere and people use the found and hanging around the city and have no idea. People are migrating because of the rural distress and have no idea which labor market they want to go, what kind of employment they are going to get and all this question. So this is a whole situation. And on top of it, now you have an NRC debate, which is creating a huge mind-boggling in this country. I mean, I can tell you, give you right example is an organizer here in Pune. If I ask worker, तुम्हारे पास आधार कार्ड है क्या, राशन कार्ड है क्या, तुम्हारे पास कुछ भी नहीं है उसके पास में. वो बिहार से आया है 30 साल पहले, उसके पास कुछ भी नहीं है. किसी ने पॉकेट मार लिया, उसका आधार कार्ड भी चला गया. अब उससे पूछो, उसके पास कुछ है ही नहीं है. And now the government wants to bring the NRC and create a national population of registers. आप किसी